Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to get started on our brief webinar. Today, you're going to be listening to Accellion and Abraham's Consulting, talking about locking down your sensitive content. And we're going to review the New York City law case and exactly how customers are doing that today with the two of us companies. Today's presenters are going to be Angela Gibson. She's with Abraham's Consulting, a platinum partner of Accellion. I am Diana Torok. I'm the East Federal and Canada Channel Manager at Accellion. And then we're going to turn it over to Mark to present the New York City law use case and how customers are locking down sensitive content with Accellion and Abraham's. And Mark is also our senior engineer responsible for the New York City law deployment. To give an overview of Abraham's.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Angela Gibson, and we were started in 2006. Abraham's Consulting has been serving the federal, state, and local government since that time. Our core competencies include technical staffing, where we will put the talent that you need on site. We vet the talent and make the recommendation to meet your technical needs. One of our practice areas includes niche solutions in the area of storage, security, and networking. And Accellion is an example of our security, one of our security solutions that we work with and provide and recommend to our clients, which is making waves in the marketplace. We're also the reseller of the vast majority of IT hardware, software, and peripherals. And IT consulting is certainly the flavor of what we do. We approach our practice from a consultative approach, and so, or consultative perspective. And so we are also able to come in and do gap analysis and see where you are with your IT objectives. We are an 8A firm, which means we are women-owned, small, disadvantaged, and able to provide you with any socioeconomic quota you may need to meet. We can help you there. And we are also certified in the state of Georgia and Maryland. We are glad to have you, and I really hope that today the Accellion presentation will help you to come to any conclusions about how it can help you with your IT requirements. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. So for the folks on the webinar that don't know Accellion, we've been securing sensitive data for over 20 years. We started with file security, and we have now grown into a product that is able to secure all sensitive data. We're about 200 people, we're global, and we're very proud of some of the not only the customer bases, but also our renewal rate and customer retention. And so we are located out of California headquarters, but we are a global company with a team worldwide. So that's it for the quick little overviews of the two companies here. We'll get started at a quicker clip. We're going to review first what the third-party trust dilemma is, why this is a very critical topic today for securing sensitive content. And we're going to go into the importance of providing not just full security and encryption, but visibility to that sensitive content in and out of the organization. And then really get into some of the details as to why and how New York City law is not only using the product to do that, but some of the pain points and some of the challenges that we are solving for them. So I'll turn it over to Mark, who will be on video to walk you through these topics.
Thanks, Diana. And yeah, as she mentioned earlier, my name is Mark McAuliffe. I'm a senior sales engineer here at Accellion, covering primarily the Northeast. So, you know, New York, New Jersey, and everything north and east of that. So, you know, we'll talk about the platform, how we're helping clients, talk about some of the visibility that we're showing, and then talk about the recent deal that we did with New York City Law and some of the pain points that we are able to help them with. But kind of from the high level with the platform, everything that we do is centered around this third-party trust dilemma. So when our CEO took over the company about 6 years ago, he went around to all the clients that he could and listened to some of the pain points that their different executives were running into with their security stack. And what he realized is that more than ever, we're sharing content with hundreds, if not thousands, of different counterparties on a daily basis. And with that, there's a myriad of different point solutions that a lot of clients are using to facilitate these. So ultimately, a lot of companies lack visibility into where their sensitive data is coming and going. So when we're talking with a lot of different organizations, from the highest level, if you wanted to kind of distill what an organization looks like from an IT perspective, this is what we tend to see, right? In the middle ring here, you've got those enterprise-based applications. Office 365 or Google tend to be kind of the email collaboration suite internally. And then they might have different tools, SAP for finance, Salesforce for CRM, Epic if they're a healthcare organization. I manage for some of the legal firms we work with. And then there's this VPN that you put around that. So obviously we protect these very well internally. But ultimately, we need to get our data to the different parties that you see on these outside rings. So on any given day, we're sharing sensitive financial information with the bankers. Regulators are collecting, again, sensitive information. We're sharing PII, PHI, credit card information. And ultimately, what this ends up looking like for a lot of organizations is kind of this spaghetti view here, where there's all these different mechanisms for sharing that data. So, you might have an employee that's traveling for a court case and he's sharing something with his phone. You've got machines that are set up to automate different flows, financials, reporting, things like that. And then you've got kind of your more traditional user-based mechanisms for sharing, such as email and file sharing. And then at the end of the day, organizations could have anywhere from 4 to 20 tools that are completing these different tasks. So with that, there's a huge issue in terms of understanding where that data is going. Someone picks it up from their mobile phone, then is working on it on their desktop. And ultimately, the logs across those different systems look completely different. So when we're feeding this into our SIM tool or into different types of monitoring or analytics tools, the data set is extremely tough to wrangle with, and ultimately kind of piecing together the puzzles across these different mechanisms is really challenging to do. So what Accellion hopes to do is provide a single platform that can work with your sensitive data across any of these channels. So ultimately what that'll do is a few things. It's going to standardize your security posture across these different mechanisms. So a lot of times, you might have 2 admins on your email platform. Your managed file transfer is kind of an afterthought. You've got the IT people there and they don't apply the same security that you've set up with your email. So there's a disconnect there. So with Accellion, it's one single set of governance rules. And then ultimately the system logs that we're collecting are going to look consistent across all of these different channels. So you've probably already made investments into those SIM tools. Hopefully we're going to empower those investments by providing a really clean set of data that those tools can kind of perform their analytics that you're paying for. So we'll touch on it here quickly, actually in a live demo, but ultimately this is what total visibility looks like. We're able to tell you who's accessing your content, how they're accessing it, and then complete audit trail of who's touched that data as it's flowing through the Accellion system. So here's our demo environment that is set up for SEs like myself. So I'll point out a few quick things and then we can jump back into the slides and talk about New York City law. But from a high level, all the green circles that you're seeing in this view represent someone successfully authenticating into the system. So on that front, we want to take on the posture that you've already invested in. So things like LDAP, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, we want to hook into those so that your users are having that consistent experience. Then what you're seeing, these yellow and maroon transactions represent some type of upload or download from the system respectively. With those, there's a few things worth mentioning. The first is that the system can support basically limitless file size. So anything up to 16 terabytes. So a lot of times these point solutions that are providing encryption work really well with smaller files, but the second that you've got a 3 gigabyte video file for a court case, no longer can you send it through that platform, and you're burning that to a DVD, encrypting it, and throwing it in FedEx. Accellion is going to provide a single platform that'll facilitate all of those transactions. The second thing worth mentioning here is that the system wants to make sure that all of that data coming and going from within your organization is clean. So with that, we ship the system with antivirus embedded directly in the software. And then if you've made investments in things like data loss prevention, advanced threat protection, we're going to hook into those to make sure that as that data is coming and leaving the organization, it meets all the rules that you guys have set up from a security perspective. And then, like I said earlier, the last component is we're able to make all of this data look the same from a graphical representation, but we're actually providing a lot of different mechanisms to move that data. So we've got the standard web client, which would be going to a URL. We've got state-of-the-art mobile applications, and these can hook into your MDM security devices. We've got desktop clients that allow to sync folders and files from the system directly onto a user's desktop. Plugins into most of the major applications that you might be using. So today we work with Office, Outlook, the Google Suite, as well as iManage and Salesforce, if those are tools that your organization is leveraging. And then from an automation perspective, we're really focused on providing this not only for the end users, but also all of the automation that you've got set up within your organization. So we provide an out-of-the-box hardened managed file transfer server that works in conjunction with the Kiteworks platform, a managed file transfer client, and then you can see here that we also offer an SFTP server. So as opposed to you guys having to have IT stand those up and set up credentials, it's a self-service model. And then more recently, a lot of our clients came to us and we're talking about Teams as kind of a new horizon for them, where originally they had people sharing sensitive information over Teams. Of course, that's going over the open internet, and ultimately they lacked visibility around that. So a lot of organizations are taking advantage of our Teams plugin. So how that works is you basically shut off external communication through your Azure tenant. And then when those users need to share that sensitive information with third parties via Team, they simply click the Accellion button and they're able to share that sensitive data in a secure manner, and you get all of the tracking and auditability that you see here. So now we're going to talk quickly just about the New York City law use case. So we had been talking with Val from New York City Law for quite some time. He's the CISO, and he had some pain points with his existing tool set, such as large files and lacking visibility. And then when the pandemic came, all of those pain points were actually amplified. So they had a lot of lawyers obviously working remotely that no longer had the ability to share those large files or videos that they were doing in the office by burning DVDs and things like that. And like a lot of organizations, we've seen a lot of companies that are moving to more remote setups, and this pain point's becoming more and more amplified for those organizations. So some of the things that were, I guess, pain points that New York City Law was dealing with is obviously, as a legal entity, basically 90% of the information they're working with would be considered sensitive information. So with that, any tool that they want to bring into their infrastructure needs to have a strong cybersecurity foundation. Accellion works with close to 50% of the AM Law 100 firms. So we do take security very seriously. We go through hundreds, if not thousands, of pen tests, along with other certifications that we get from the different respective organizations. So that was kind of a no-brainer. Obviously, pain point number 2 is pretty straightforward. We need all of this sensitive information to have a secure encryption around that. So Accellion will provide state-of-the-art encryption. For New York City law, they're actually going with the Federal Information Protection Standard, so FIPS 140-2. And with that, part of it is providing the encryption around that communication. But the flip side to that is also we need the ability for our lawyers to have proof in court that they're actually sharing this information and that counterparties received that. So not only are we providing encryption around it, but we're also providing easy audit logs that those lawyers can download. And if they go into court and the counterparty says we never received that information, well, now they've got digital evidence with digital hashes, all of that type of stuff to say we did indeed share this, and we can prove that they downloaded it. Pain point 3 might be pain point 1 for a lot of CISOs. Like anything, you can build extremely secure tools, but ultimately, if it's not easy for the end users, in this case, lawyers, to use, they probably won't adopt that. So Accellion tries to make all of our tools really easy and intuitive to use. So for New York City law's use case, a lot of it's really just simply secure email or secure collaboration. With that, the platform is extremely modern. Like I said, we offer plugins into Outlook, iManage, different tools that New York City law was taking advantage of. So we could really seamlessly fit into all of the existing workflows that those lawyers had within the legal firm. Pain point 4, again, I touched on this earlier, but there's so many communications coming and going from within legal entities to the district attorney, counter law firms, whoever else it is that's working on those cases. And with that, they really needed a secure way to track all of those communications. So Accellion takes our audit logs very seriously. I think it's the reason that we work with a lot of legal entities that we do. Basically, every click or action or modification to a file is going to be tracked in an immutable log. And those can, again, be exported to your SIM tools, or you can actually use the GUI and search through those logs to find exactly what's happened within the organization. And then the last portion is really just providing the visibility that we just touched on. So, obviously, if you're burning DVDs and sending those through the mail, there's basically zero visibility outside of some FedEx tracking numbers. But not only that, they had a lot of different small tools that were used in different facilities to send information. And with that, it was, again, a kind of a myriad of different system logs that they were trying to commingle to figure out what happened to the data. So because Accellion can provide that via SFTP, via email, all of the different mechanisms that they were using, it was really able to consolidate that for them into a single platform. And then what you're seeing here is really kind of just the standard workflow across an entire organization. So we touched on it earlier, but there's really a few things worth mentioning. So on the left, we're going to really work with the different enterprise content sources that you guys have today. So it can be an SFTP share, local CIF shares, cloud-based repositories, OneDrive, SharePoint Online. We can hook into any of those. And then on the right is obviously all of the different parties that need access to that information. Well, Accellion sits in the middle, provides ad hoc communications to these different repositories, automations to these different repositories, and then ultimately unifies that security, governance, and visibility for an organization. A big selling point for New York City law and some of the other agencies that we work with is Accellion has been FedRAMP certified now for, I believe, our 6th year straight. So FedRAMP is a federal program that came from some of the hacks to the military, and they wanted basically to set up a gold standard for different organizations that were working within the cloud. So with that, we offer a FedRAMP moderate solution. It sits in AWS. And you can see here, basically every year we go through a rigorous audit with one of our auditors to make sure that we're basically checking all of the box for FedRAMP. And of course, these different regulations are updated year to year. So we do make sure that our security is up to date on the platform for those yearly audits, as well as the different pen tests that we're adhering to throughout the year. And then, of course, like any organization, New York City law falls under basically all of these things. They're working with some of the local citizens with healthcare information. If someone slips in front of a bodega, that actually falls to them. So they fall under HIPAA. FedRAMP, of course, is kind of a necessity if they're moving for a cloud-based platform. I mentioned earlier that we do offer FIPS validated encryption, so that's just a stronger based encryption. So the platform is really designed around aligning itself with the NIST 853 as well as 800-171 security measures. So with that, you'll find a lot of alignment to the different regulations that your organization may fall under. Another recent, groundswell movement we've had within the company is around the CMMC regulations. So because Accellion is FedRAMP moderate, because we do offer that FIPS encryption and the systems aligned with NIST 800-171, we're actually a really easy fit for companies that need to adhere to CMMC compliance. So we're going through the process ourselves of actually getting CMMC certified, but the platform does align very well with that. And if you on our website, you should be able to download a CMMC compliance guide that'll show all of the different regulations from CMMC and which ones Accellion can help you adhere to. So far, we've been talking about the infrastructure mostly from a cloud-based side of things, but it is worth mentioning the system's extremely flexible in how it can be deployed. So to that end, we offer a hosted solution. So we offer hosting in both Azure and AWS. So with that, it's a virtual private cloud, meaning there's no multi-tenancy of data. And ultimately, the client owns the encryption keys, which is a big sticking point. So we don't have access to any of the data that's flowing through any of our clients' systems. So even if the government subpoenas us, we'd have to push them back to the client and say, talk to them because you guys own the encryption keys. You can see here, we also have the FedRAMP offering that would be Accellion hosted. We do offer on-premise versions. So with that, we would provide you with a virtually hardened image and you would stand that up on Hyper-V or VMware. And then we also can have clients hosted in their own virtual private cloud. So today we of course support Azure and AWS, and that would work similar to the on-premise deployment where we would provide you with that image and you would go through your cloud provider to configure it. And then the last would be a hybrid solution. So you can have some nodes sitting locally on your on-premise servers, as other sitting based in the cloud to meet different needs. So that's kind of a more bespoke deployment, but we do see some clients taking advantage of it. And I guess if anyone has any questions, feel free to ping those into the chat. There should be a Q&A section within there.
Does have any questions moving forward, please feel free to reach out to Angela at Abrahams, or of course, anybody on the team here at Accellion. And that concludes our session. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Angela, and thank you everybody for joining.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Have a good day.